Hey guys, it's Bree here at Bossman Branch Farm. We are here at our home farm in southern Minnesota for the next couple of weeks. It was first purchased by my family by my great-grandfather. He farmed it, and then my grandfather farmed it, and then my dad farmed it until he went to Vietnam. And that's when my grandpa sold his dairy herd. He had a lot of lung issues, as a lot of farmers did in those days, emphysema, and my dad was going off to fight in Vietnam. Bailey, leave the bird. And while my grandpa was actually pretty advanced for his time when he started the dairy farm, it just got too hard to keep up with all the new regulations. He actually had planned on farming that year, and so he filled up the barn with straw in anticipation of having a full year of dairy cattle, and unfortunately, that is all still in here. One of the videos I'm going to be showing you is going to be taking you through our adventure of taking all of that out of the barn, and then I'm also going to have my dad walk us through the granary and the barn and talk about how it used to function back in its heyday. The farm is 200 acres of corn and soybeans, and this is a struggle for me, as you guys might know, because I strongly oppose monoculture farming. So those things are kind of coming up in these next couple of videos. If you're not interested, please feel free to tune back in when I'm back to my regular programming back at our home farm in Colorado. But we're going to start by our saga of getting all of the straw out of the barn and cleaning her out. Let's go. Okay, so here is some of the inside of the barn. As you can see, it's really quite large, and when we first got in here, this was totally full of straw. So this is the straw that was put in here in 1976. And it's been here ever since. And even though this is sped up video, this took us about 4 days to get through with a crew of 2 to 5 people working on it. So it really took us a long time. And what we figured out finally how to do this, trying to be the most efficient with it. And what we figured out is that if we cut a hole in the floor underneath where a lot of this straw was, and then built a metal shaft, then what we could do is push all of the straw toward that door into that little hole in the floor, and then it would slide down this metal slide that we built and straight out. From there, we had our cousin Bill on the tractor, and he spread it out, and we basically just spread it out all into the cow pasture and also around the building. So we used it around the buildings as weed suppression. And finally, we got it all cleared out, and it looks so much better in there. So now that it's nice and clear, we're going to go ahead and have my dad take us on a quick tour through the barn and tell us all the different working parts from when he was a boy and when he was helping his dad farm in here. You have a lot of memories in here, I bet.
It was hard work, but it was productive. And glad I could help Grandpa. He was ahead of his time with all his ideas. Here was an automatic water line coming into the barn, and this was each cow had an individual watering fountain. So they would push down on here, and it would fill up with water, and they could drink it as much as they want. They would get fresh water all the time.
And this is pretty advanced for the time when Grandpa put it in.
And they would put their head in here, close it, hold them when we were milking them. And we'd bring all the food down here. The food would be in the trough here, be hay. They could do it. They had long necks. They would have ground up corn and grain, and that would go down here. So they would be fed several times a day. On this side, when they had baby calves, they would grow up in here. They would all get together in here. So once they were no longer milking, then they would go in here. Grandpa was getting old, and he just wasn't able to do it anymore. So he sold them to somebody else who had cows. And this was where the silo, they ground everything up, and that's the door to it to keep the cold air out in the wintertime. But that's where the silo came down there, and then we would have a cart and spread it out. So again, they got silage and corn and hay. So they had a really good appetite. And when we were cleaning the barn, a little cage up on top of that, what would happen, we'd have steel ladder going up on the right side of it. And so when you were filling it up with chopped corn, then you would go ahead and climb that steel ladder and then put a tractor up there with a big pulley and blow the chopped corn up on top and blow it into the silo. On the left side was sticking out. That was the where you took the corn out and the silage out in the over the winter time, and then you would feed the cattle from there. See that big thing there?
Yeah.
That was for manure. So when we were cleaning it out, when the cows went poop, we would clean that out and shovel it out in there, and then we would go outside on a track like a railroad track, and it would dump like a dump truck. And let's see if it'll still dump or not. I don't know. No, pretty rusty.
So it slides along this track and then it would go out.
It would go down the end, make a right turn, and like a railroad track, it would back out the door, and there would be a wagon to take it away. And we'd take it out in the field, and it would make everything fertile and green. And if you look up, that's where the bedding was. It was all the straw and hay, and that was all up there. And we would knock it through the holes like this, and then spread that out on the floor where you're standing now. So it'd be like a soft bedding for them.
So tell us, so they would bring all the straw in, they'd blow all that in, and then all winter long you put it down for bedding?
Right, and that's what we would do is I'll push it into here, and there would be a big chain all the way around with a motor on, and it would slowly move it all down and clean it all out and put it in a wagon that we could take out to the field. There was a really big heavy chain all the way that would run in here, and that's what it would take all the manure.
Oh, so I actually didn't realize that. I thought you shoveled it out.
No. If anything, you shovel out some there, but no, it was a massive chain.
Oh, so that's what this is?
Yeah, it's a pulley.
Oh, the chain wrapped around there, and then the chain would pull the manure out.
Yeah, and Grandpa was one of the early ones to do all this, to do all the concrete, have the concrete work done, and get everything put in, because a lot of them didn't have a.
That probably saved a lot of time.
Oh gosh, yes, and agony. It took a lot of straw when we had the cows. I mean, it didn't always empty out, but it took a lot of straw, because we had to change the bedding usually twice a day, so they'd be comfortable laying not in the cement. See the numbers where the cows are. There's 20, 21, 22.
And they each knew their number?
So we could keep track of them, but they kept a better track. They know where they would go. Like I am number 22, so it would go outside and get cleaned out and come back in. It would go to 22.
Can you talk about what this line was for?
That line was for when they first milking them, and we had like an electric fence. And what would happen? Hang on, I'll show you down there that we have some of those. But what it is, when the cow would arch up or try to kick you with something, it would get a shock, and it would push it back down again. Otherwise, it would keep them from kicking you and knocking you down.
Did you ever get kicked?
Oh boy, not kicked and stepped in.
You always wear closed-toed shoes, right?
No, and they would step on your feet. It hurts.
Yeah, they're, what, 500 pounds?
More pushing 800, 900. That was an electric shock going all the way down. And after they got settled in, now we didn't have it on, but initially we had it on so they wouldn't keep on kicking and beating us up. So what they would do, it'd be an electric shock, and it would be here. So if they arched up, it would give it a little shock, and they would back down again. And then after a while, they would not have it on anymore. It was mainly initially when we were first starting out. The milking, we'd go step up here, and then milk the cows on both sides from one place. So there'd be two milking machines with suction on each side. So we had a hired man, so one would be doing two and one would be doing two, because it took time to milk all 28 cows.
How long would it take?
Probably half an hour, but in the morning, like I said, you're in a hurry and you got to get things done.
Right.
It took longer at night when we were putting down fresh bedding for them and stuff, so they would be not laying on the cold concrete. Those were where Grandpa kept his pills for the cows. So if he had certain things, they would give the cow medicine for, so they would have it in here, so it would be safe and handy.
In case you need it.
See, like that one is for ringworm.
Ooh.
So they were, like I said, specific medicines for different things. And up here, we had the milking machines here. After we milked the cows, Grandma would come down and clean it out, a clean rinsing water, to clean out the milking machines every day. because they had to be sterile. They couldn't be diseased or anything. That was the milking machine, and that was like a big pump. And you could hear it in the morning go boom, 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 and that would create a vacuum to milk the cows.
This is pretty state of the art for the time, right?
It was. Most of the stuff was. The barn cleaner was, the silo unloader was.
You would have put these in what, the 40s?
Probably, yeah. And that was a little, when Grandma was cleaning out everything, that was the drain going outside. So when she flushed everything out, then there's a little drain going to all the outside sewers.
Now, so the popular thing now is raw milk. So everyone likes to say that raw milk is the way that everyone used to drink it. You grew up on a dairy farm. Did you guys drink raw milk or pasteurized?
We had pasteurized, and we drank pasteurized. Grandma would have like a 1 gallon pasteurizer, just because you never know. I mean, they were out in the dirt all the time, and it was just safer to have it.
Yeah,
when
wildlife.
When we sold the milk, though, it was raw milk, and then it went to the creamery, and they would process it. So the big milk cooler here was like the big drums that would be here. So we would put it in there overnight to keep it cold, and then in the morning we'd take it to the creamery.
And it was a creamery for the whole town of...
It served a lot of people. There were some, commercial. There were several creameries, maybe 5 miles apart. But Grandpa had one in particular he used. So this is where we kept the little cows and the pigs and some chickens. So they would be here. And this again is that big chain that goes all the way around, so it goes underneath here too, to clean out all the cow poop and horse poop.
So what would you have over here, pigs?
Pigs and younger calves, mainly younger pigs on this side, and on the other side down there would be the calves. And this was the feeder. We'd fill it full, so it would filter down, and they would eat it automatically without having spoiling it.
What was the middle for?
Hay and straw. That's where the hay was. No, they were on the outside, around the other side, the L shape.
So they didn't really hang out here in the center that much.
Oh no. This was mainly hay bales. Almost fill it full in the summertime. Usually 3 or 4 bales at a feeding, and spread it out in those troughs I showed you, where they would get nice fresh hay, green hay.
What was the most number of bales? I already know. Tell us about the most bales you ever put in here.
The most we ever did was one time the weather was coming in. It was going to be raining, and that would hurt the hay. So we milked the cows early, and there were several of us that got together. The farmers would get together, and we baled 1,200 bales after we milked the cows, before it got dark. Because when it gets wet, it's not as good as when it's fresh and green. But it would be
1,200 bales.
It would, and at the end of the summer, it would be filled. It would be filled to the top with hay.
And then how did they got it in through these?
Each door over there, like you see the doors over there, there would be a chute down. When you put it in, you would leave an opening, and go up and drop them down.
So what were these doors up here for? Can you tell us about the doors on the outside?
That was to load the barn in the first place. If you see those, it looks like big timbers or big. What they were the counterweights, and what they would do is when they would open up that big door up on top, so that we could bring the hay bales in. Because what would happen is they would bring the bales, and they would go ahead and park outside, and then they would get a big bale hook, and they would raise them up. They had a steel cable in here, and they would raise them up, and then they would move down to the end. And then when somebody was inside, he would say, "Yeah, okay, drop it." And so then he was the one inside that did the dropping and the organizing of the hay. So it was it was bearable. It was hard work, but it was bearable.
Is it hot?
Yeah, and if it was really hot, it would drop. It always drops some hay and some straw.
Yeah, a lot of dust.
And that's what's left in there now is the stuff, not the bales, but the leftovers that would get dropped in there. But again, here's the barn cleaner again, running under the hay.
Oh, so it would go all the way under.
All the way under.
Ah, Ah, that's why the pathway was there.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Well, now you do.
Now I do.
And this used to have big fans, so on each side. So if it ever got too hot, you could turn them on and circulate air through the barn. You could see from here how much work it was, and
pretty dangerous too.
speaking of which, over here is the grain bin, and that was where the horse barn was when Grandpa had the horse barn. And when I was 3 or 4 years old, there was a fire, and they had the horse barn burned. They couldn't save anything inside, so they built a grain bin on top of it, but that's where the horse barn used to be for the horses. Yeah, there was an electric heater. When the pigs would have baby pigs, they would have a heater over there with a screen down below, but if the bulb would shatter, it would be super hot and electric current. And they figured out that's what probably started the fire, but they couldn't get to it and couldn't get water to it. What we're looking at now, it's called a granary, and this is what they put in the summertime: soybeans and oats and corn to feed the cattle over the wintertime. And if you look up on top, there's a trapdoor, and that's what would happen. You would get an elevator. It's called an elevator, a long auger, and it would drop the grain in the top, and then you would have little diversions down below to put it in different bins. Like you might have soybeans in one bin, you might have oats in another bin, and that's what they would sit, and they'd be separated. And then when the time came, either you would take it out for feed, for animal feed, or if you look on the front, you could see some chutes where you would open it up, and if you were going to sell some, you would park the wagon underneath there, and then you would go ahead and open that, and it would open up the grain bins upstairs. And there were probably 4 or 5 separate divisions in there, different grains for different things. So it's a pretty important thing. It was one of the buildings that was on the farm when Grandpa bought it, and the barn as well. The barn was here when he bought it and was working on it. This is one of the ones they would also build: the barn, the house, and the granary, because they had to find a way to keep the grain.
And they used to, if they were saving their seed, would they save it in here too?
Yes.
They used to save all their own seed.
Yeah, Grandpa we'd process the feed, like the soybeans and stuff. There was like a big screen, and it had a motor on. It would vibrate, and as it vibrated, it would separate out the bigger seeds from the smaller ones, and any dirt and chaff. So that was the job to use a smaller auger to go from those chutes up on top to the separating machine, and that was somebody had to be there all the time, regulating it so it wouldn't overflow and separating the good grain from the bad grain.
What do you think about farmers not being able to save their own seed now? What do you think Grandpa would think about that?
He wouldn't be happy, because right now it's basically a monopoly. But from here you can see the separate bins and the ladder going upstairs, where there's separate bins upstairs too.
So they would keep a grain in each of these rooms up here.
Yeah, they could be up there too.
And down here?
Yeah, they were all separate possible bins. And if you look at how old it is, it's got the old electrical knob and tube wiring. It's not working now, of course.
When would they use that?
When they want to empty the bin. What are we up there?
Here are a couple.
We'll wash it up and see what it looks like.
All right.
And also, when they put the grain in, if they would get a government loan against the grain, and that was a notice to leave it alone until they were notified, and you had to get approval to go ahead and sell the grain that you had the loan on.
Well, since we're at it, any thoughts on the state of farming today? What do you think about the fact that everyone has to have thousands of acres to survive?
It's too bad. It's too bad, but the cost of machinery, the cost of land, they have no choice. They have to, if they're going to stay alive, they have to be able to make enough money to do that. And the problem again is the price of everything: price of grain, price of seeds, everything. Yeah, they fed the country.
Thanks for the tour, Dad.
No charge.